Good afternoon, and as you can tell, I'm sitting here on the floor in front of this couch, which I've also been using to sleep on. And I meant to make this video a while ago because before I bought this machine, I didn't really know much about it. I think I might have seen one, maybe two videos about it at the time, and I think one of them was coming from like a Dell employee or maybe, a Dell associate or affiliate somehow. So it really wasn't the, unbiased opinion or unbiased video that I would want to see for something like this. So right here, I have the Dell Precision 3470, okay? So right here, we have the Dell Precision 3470. And I've had this now for maybe about six months. That sounds about right. 6 months sounds about right. And I'm not one for, benchmarks and all that type of stuff. So I'm not going to run any. I know I have in the past because it does have a 12th generation Core i7 12. I don't know. I'm turning it on right now to tell you what it is. But before I actually, show you that, let's just talk about what's on the outside. And again, you can go to Dell's website and see all this stuff. But on the left side of the machine, and I don't know if you just heard the Windows sound right there, you have two USB-C ports. And let me get my face out of there so it focuses on that. Yes. Now, can you see the little lightning bolts on there? So they both are Thunderbolt and I think USB 4. They both allow for power in, data in and out, as well as video out. So at one point in time, I was using these ports to connect to a monitor. And that's all that you have on the side, with the exception of the fan. Now, the one thing that I didn't like about this particular unit, not the machine itself, is that it did not come with a smart card reader right here, which is something that I use for work all the time. And I did contact Dell to see if I could buy it after the fact. In fact, that's not true. I'll tell you, when we open the machine, I contacted them for something else on the inside. But I would imagine that it would be the same premise for this thing too. That the answer is no. Once you buy it, you can't buy. You buy like this, and unless you can find it from somebody else, a third-party vendor, getting it directly from the manufacturer probably just isn't going to happen. So along the back side, we got nothing. I think right here there could be a slot for a SIM card in the event that you had mobile data for this device. On this side, we have some interesting stuff. And I'd say interesting by 2023 standards, because a lot of these ports no longer exist on thin and light laptops. So yes, you have your Kensington lock, or actually it might be a different name, but you have your lock. You have a Ethernet port, which has the little hinge door right here. And I'll get my face out of there. And then you have your HDMI port. Is it 2.0 or 1? I don't 2.0, 2. I don't know what it is because I don't care. But you have a full-size HDMI port, and then you have two USB-A ports, and they both have the little number 5 next to them, meaning that they transfer data at 5 gigabits per second. And you have a headphone jack, combo headphone jack, and then you have an SD card slot. Now, I have turned it on, and we're just going to look at it here on the lock screen, and hopefully there's not too much glare. But the screen is a 14-inch screen with the Windows Hello IR cameras up here at the top, so that's nice. And the one thing I didn't like about the screen, the quality is fine. I mean, it's definitely, I can tell it's not the best panel, but it's still a 16:9 aspect ratio as opposed to a 16:10. And I'll be honest, I didn't really care about that difference until I started using laptops that weren't 16:9, because yeah, you do get you feel like you get a little more vertical real estate, and it's nice. Now, looking at the keyboard, full-size keyboard, everything's fine. The thing that I contacted Dell about, hoping to get an aftermarket or a first-party part from them directly, was right here. You can see that there's a power button over here, but it could come with an optional fingerprint reader, and that's what I really wanted, is the fingerprint reader, because frequently I will not set up Windows Hello with the IR camera, and I'll have the little cover blocking the camera, and to my knowledge, if you have one of the cameras blocked, it doesn't work properly. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on that, but I don't even think I've set it up because I just don't use it. The trackpad is okay. It feels cheap. I'll tell you that. Like, it feels plasticky and cheap, and it clicks fine. But in terms of better trackpads that I've used, or trackpads in general, this is not one of the better ones. Now, the entire body is plastic, I believe, and because this is the 3000 series of the Precision, I can imagine that's why they went with that. But the one thing that I'll know, and of course you wouldn't know this until you actually use it, is that because it's plastic and whatever material might be on the underside of the plastic isn't great at insulating heat, this entire deck gets very, very hot sometimes. And it gets so hot that, in fact, when I first purchased it, I went out and bought what drive was it? Man, I don't even remember which drive it was, but I know I bought a Gen 4 drive, PCIe Gen 4 drive, and those things run a little hotter than Gen 3 drives. So I went, bought it, installed it, set Windows up, did whatever, and that drive got so hot that it was uncomfortable to touch. I'll say uncomfortable to type on this keyboard. Uncomfortable to, I think the drive is, in fact, if I can remember, I think the drive is either right here, I think it's right here. Yeah, I think it's over here. But yeah, uncomfortable to use the machine because it got so hot that I actually ended up taking the drive back and I put a Gen 3 drive in, which definitely did run a little cooler, so I was able to use the machine more comfortably. But I'm sure they could have done something to make it so that the heat didn't transfer through the case the way that it does, and make it so that, yeah, using a drive that runs hotter isn't as problematic. And I will say the drive that came with this machine was a 256 gig drive. Don't know if it was Gen 3 or Gen 4, but it was one of the shorter little guys, and they had a heat sink on it that, dissipated heat that way, but in terms of heat coming up through the chassis, they didn't do anything, I think, to block it the way that they should have. So that's all I'm gonna say in terms of the build quality. I mean, it's fine. It's definitely a stable machine. The one thing I did like about this, in addition to being able to swap out the NVMe SSD, I was able to upgrade the RAM. So it came with one single DIMM of 32 gigabytes of RAM, DDR5, and I installed a second DIMM. So this machine total has 64 gigs of RAM, and that was really, really nice. That was really, really satisfying, I'll say, in 2023, since a lot of machines have the RAM soldered to the board. And other than that, I mean, I think that's it. At this point, I haven't checked to see if there are any other people who've done reviews. All in all, I think it's a good machine. I haven't recently looked at Dell's website to see exactly how much they would charge for this particular configuration, but I bought it used, as I always do. And for $900, yes, it came with 256 gigs of storage and 32 gigs of RAM. I spent an additional close to $200 to put in an additional 32 gigs of RAM, and then another $100 to upgrade that storage from 256 to a terabyte. And yeah, I will say that is definitely a mobile workstation. That thing is a workhorse. It does everything I needed to do, has done everything that I needed it to do. And if you're looking for something that is somewhat inexpensive, but gives you the power of a mobile workstation, I would definitely recommend that thing. The only issue that I've had is just the heat. Because of what it's made of, that just plastic, the heat just comes up, and sometimes you'll be like, ooh, this is a little warm. And I'll say, especially when I first started using it, like while Windows was installing everything, all the updates and all that, and even sometimes just randomly, that fan will just kick up and start blowing, and you're just like, holy crap, why is this thing so loud? And you just wait until it shuts down. I don't think I have, in fact, yeah, I try to keep the machine off of best performance because I know that will cause the machine to run a little warmer. So whether it's balanced, when it's on energy efficient or best energy efficiency, I think that's when it stays the quietest. But for something like this, or any mobile workstation, any machine in modern times, I'd hope that heat management, or I guess thermal management, will be a little better than it is on this machine. So if you're able to find it for a good price, yeah, I'd recommend it. I will say that as I'm talking about this, I'm going to, after I stop this video, start talking about the Precision 5470, so the 5000 series of the Precision lineup. And I'll let you know, that's definitely a better machine. So all in all, the 3470 is fine. I even bought a second one, and I gave that one to my mom. We haven't set it up yet, so we'll do that at some point in time.